Have you ever looked at someone and wondered, how do they do it? How do they just glide through life, completely unshaken by the chaos that sends the rest of us spinning? What if I told you that most of the anger, the anxiety, and the daily stress that you accept as a normal part of life isn't actually real? Not in the way you think it is. Today we are going to pull back the curtain on the single greatest illusion that is holding your peace of mind hostage. This isn't another think positive pep talk. This is a deep dive into the mechanics of your own mind, using ancient wisdom to solve a modern problem. I'm going to give you the first key to reclaiming control, to shifting from a life of constant reaction to one of quiet, unshakable strength. So let's start by identifying the enemy. Think about it. That surge of white-hot rage when a car cuts you off in traffic. That knot in your stomach when you read a passive-aggressive work email. That wave of anxiety and comparison that hits you after a 30-second scroll through social media. Why? Why do these tiny, insignificant moments have absolute dominion over our emotional state? The reason is that in every single one of these instances, we make the same critical error. We believe the outside event is the problem. We tell ourselves a story, and the language of that story is crucial. We say, "He made me feel stupid," or "that ruined my day." We are, in effect, outsourcing our own feelings. We've handed a remote control for our emotions to every stranger on the road, every colleague in the office, and every curated photo on the internet. And as long as we do that, we remain completely and utterly powerless. Let me tell you when this truth hit me like a ton of bricks. A few years ago, I was going through a particularly stressful time, and I sent a text to a good friend asking about plans for the weekend. The reply I got back was just a single letter. K. That's it. My mind didn't just walk. It sprinted into a full-blown catastrophe narrative. K, he's angry with me. What did I do wrong? He's blowing me off. He probably never wanted to hang out in the first place. Within seconds, I had manufactured an entire drama of rejection and betrayal inside my own head. The rest of my day was clouded by this feeling of hurt. It wasn't until the next day when he called, completely oblivious, and mentioned he'd been in the middle of a meeting and sent a quick reply, that the sheer insanity of my reaction became clear. The event itself was neutral data, one letter on a screen, but the story I attached to it, the meaning I assigned it, was pure poison, and I was the one drinking it. My mind was the source of my own suffering. This is the profound, life-altering secret the ancient Stoic philosophers mastered 2 millennia ago. The philosopher Epictetus said it best. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about those things. Let that sink in. It is never the event. It is always your interpretation of the event. Your judgment is the gasoline. The event is merely a spark. Without your fuel, it can't start a fire. The world can poke, but only you decide if it hurts. So here is your first mission. Your first step towards freedom. I am not asking you to change your feelings or to suppress your anger. For the next 7 days, I just want you to become a curious observer of your own mind. When you feel that flash of frustration, that sting of jealousy, that wave of anxiety, pause just for a single second and silently acknowledge the truth to yourself. This feeling is being generated by me. The story is coming from me. That's it. You don't have to fix it or fight it. Just notice. Just by creating that tiny sliver of awareness, you begin to separate the external event from your internal reaction. You create a space, and in that space, as we will discover, lies all of your power. But this raises the most important question of all. If we are the ones creating these painful stories, why? Why is our default setting so often negative? The answer is that we are all running on hidden software. It's an old, outdated code written by our past experiences, our fears, and our deepest insecurities. And it is running your life without your permission. In the next part, we are going to drag that hidden code out into the light. So we've established a crucial first principle. We are the source of our own emotional reactions. The world doesn't hand us our feelings. We manufacture them inside our own minds based on the stories we tell ourselves. But that leads to a much deeper, more uncomfortable question. If we're the ones in the factory, why are we producing so much pain? Why is our first automatic instinct so often self-sabotaging? Why does the story so often turn dark? The truth is, none of us are working with a clean slate. We are all operating on old, invisible programming. The brilliant psychologist Carl Jung put it perfectly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. For most of us, our unconscious is directing our entire emotional life, and we are completely oblivious to it. We think we're making choices, but we're actually just rerunning old scripts. Imagine that from a young age you were forced to wear a special pair of glasses. You can never take them off, but these glasses aren't perfect, they're flawed. There's a slight crack in the right lens from a time someone told you that you weren't good enough. There's a permanent, greasy smudge on the left lens from a messy breakup that left you feeling betrayed. The frame itself is slightly warped from the pressure of trying to live up to your family's expectations. Now, after wearing these glasses for 20, 30, or 40 years, you've forgotten they're even there. You believe the distorted, cracked, smudged view they provide is reality. You don't see the world as it is, you see it through the filter of your past hurts. This is the cracked lens through which most of us navigate life. If your lens was cracked by constant criticism in your youth, you will hear judgment in every neutral comment. If it was smudged by a painful rejection, you will see the potential for abandonment in every new relationship. You're not reacting to what's actually happening in the present moment. You're reacting to the ghost of a past event. You are, as Jung said, responding not to truth, but to a projection. And here is the mistake we make, a mistake that keeps us trapped. We believe our perception is objective fact. We defend our distorted view of reality with our lives because we don't know it's distorted. Let me paint a picture for you. Let's say you've worked hard on a report and you submit it to your boss. Later that day, she calls you into her office and says, "Hey, thanks for this. I've read it over and I have a few notes for revisions." Now, for a person with a relatively clear lens, this is a completely normal, non-threatening interaction. It's feedback, it's part of the collaborative process. But for someone whose lens was cracked by a hypercritical parent or a teacher who always marked their papers with angry red ink, this is not what they hear. Their old unconscious script begins to play automatically, at lightning speed. They don't hear, "I have some notes." They hear, "This isn't good enough. You failed. You've disappointed me." Instantly, their body reacts, their stomach sinks. They feel a hot flush of shame or a defensive spike of anger. Their mind starts racing, preparing justifications. "Well, I didn't have enough time," or "the instructions weren't clear." And they might sit there nodding physically, but internally, they are in a battle. They are no longer in a conversation with their boss in the present moment. They are mentally and emotionally transported back to their childhood classroom or their family dinner table, fighting an old battle with a ghost. They are responding to a projection, a story, a narrative they built out of thin air. They leave that office feeling dejected, misunderstood, and incompetent, while their boss has likely already forgotten the conversation and moved on. The unconscious has directed their life, and they just call it a bad day at work. So what is the way out? The ancient Greeks gave us the answer thousands of years ago. Socrates famously stated, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Now, we tend to think of that as some lofty, academic, philosophical phrase. It is not. It is a brutally practical instruction for living a life of freedom. It is a command to take responsibility for your own lens. The goal here is not to blame your past. Blaming your parents, your exes, or your old teachers is just another story. It's another way of outsourcing responsibility, of making yourself the victim. The true path to power is radical ownership. It's looking at the smudges and cracks, not with blame, but with curiosity. It's about having the courage to say, "Okay, this crack is here. It's part of my story. It's not my fault, but it is my responsibility to understand it and to stop letting it dictate my present." This is how you begin to rewrite the code. You can't change what happened to you, but you have absolute power to change the meaning you assign to it today. So here is your second mission. This is the practical work of examining your life. The next time you feel that disproportionate emotional reaction, that surge of anger, that's a 10 out of 10 when the situation only warranted a 2, or that wave of anxiety that feels completely out of scale with the trigger, I want you to pause and ask yourself one powerful question. What old story is this activating? That's it. Just ask the question. Is this really about my partner being 10 minutes late for dinner? Or is this activating my old story of, I'm not a priority, or I'm always being forgotten? Is this really about my friend celebrating a new success? Or is this activating my old story of, I'm always falling behind, or I'm not good enough? Is this really about my boss's feedback? Or is this activating my old story of, I can never do anything right? This question is a flashlight in the dark basement of your subconscious. It stops the automatic script in its tracks and for the first time allows you to see the code for what it is, an old program, a story. And if it's just a story, you can choose to stop telling it. This is how you make the unconscious conscious. This is how you take back the controls from the ghosts of your past. Okay, so now we know that we are the source of our reactions. And we know why our reactions are so often flawed because of these hidden scripts. We've learned to spot the story. But what do you do in that critical moment? When the trigger is fired and the old, painful story begins to play, how do you stop it dead in its tracks? How do you build a firewall between the event and your emotional spiral? That is where the true superpower of the Stoics comes into play. It's a simple technique, but it contains almost magical power. And in the next part, we are going to master it. It's called the pause. So we've dragged our invisible scripts out into the light. We know that our past has written these automatic, often painful stories that play in our minds. But knowing that the movie is bad isn't enough. The real question is, how do you stop it from playing? How do you regain control in that critical moment when the trigger gets pulled right before you spiral? The answer is a technique so simple it feels almost insulting, yet so powerful it can fundamentally change the entire fabric of your life. It's a superpower that you can deploy at any time, in any place. It requires no special training, only a moment of intention. The ancient Stoics built their entire philosophy on this foundation. I call it the pause. The pause is the conscious creation of a space between what happens to you and how you respond to it. Think of your emotional life in 3 distinct steps. Step 1, an external event occurs. Step 2, your mind makes an instant judgment or tells a story about that event. Step 3, you feel an emotion based entirely on that judgment. The secret that the Stoics unlocked is that all of our suffering is born in step 2, not step 1. Let's put this under a microscope with a simple scenario. You're at the gym and someone across the room glances in your direction and frowns. Let's break it down. Step 1, the event. The objective, verifiable reality is this. A person's facial muscles contracted into a frown while their eyes were pointed in your general vicinity. That's it. That is the sum total of what actually happened in the outside world. Step 2, the judgment. Your mind, running its old familiar scripts of insecurity, I'm not good enough, people are always judging me, immediately writes a story. It's a lightning-fast interpretation. They're judging me, they think I look ridiculous. I must be doing this exercise wrong. Step 3, the emotion. Based only on the story from step 2, you feel a hot flush of shame, a surge of self-consciousness, or a spike of defensive anger. Your workout is now tainted by this feeling. The person who frowned could have been having a bad day. They could have been squinting at a TV. They might not have even been looking at you. It doesn't matter. You have already launched into a full mental spiral over a guess, a story you built out of thin air. The pain didn't come from the frown. It came from your judgment about the frown. Now here is the mistake that virtually all of us make all day, every day. We experience these 3 distinct steps as one single instantaneous event. We live in a state of emotional collapse. The frown is the shame. The critical email is the anger. The K text is the rejection. When we live in this collapsed state, we are operating on pure reflex. There is no space for thought, no room for freedom. We are no different than a doctor tapping our knee with a hammer and watching it jerk. It's a stimulus and reaction circuit. It's automatic, it's unconscious. The pause is the act of prying those steps apart. It's the decision to move from an animalistic reflex to a conscious human response. And in that tiny space you create, all of your power resides. This is not about becoming emotionless. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about Stoicism. The goal is not to suppress your feelings. The goal is to have the right feelings for the right reasons, in a way that serves you rather than harms you. The great philosopher Aristotle captured this perfectly. He said, anyone can become angry, that is easy, but to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, for the right purpose, and in the right way, that is not easy. Without the pause, you can't do any of that. Without that space, you will always be angry with the wrong person, often yourself, to the wrong degree, usually an overreaction, at the wrong time instantly, for the wrong purpose, to satisfy a bruised ego, and in the wrong way, destructively. The pause is what gives you the moment to ask, is anger the right tool for this job? Will it help me achieve my desired outcome, or will it just make things worse? This is emotional mastery, not emotional suppression. So how do we practice this? How do we build this pause muscle? Here is your third mission. I call it the reporter's mindset. For the next week, when something happens that triggers you, your only job in that first instant is to be a reporter. Not a judge, not a critic, not a storyteller. Just a reporter. Your task is to mentally state the objective, verifiable facts of the situation, and only the facts. So instead of the story, my boss just insulted my intelligence, the reporter's mind says, my boss sent me an email with a question I had previously answered. Instead of the story, that jerk just tried to run me off the road, the reporter's mind says, the driver of the blue car moved into my lane without signaling. Instead of the story, my friend is ignoring me and doesn't care, the reporter's mind says, it has been 2 hours and I have not yet received a text message in response to mine. Do you feel the difference? Stating the neutral facts forces a wedge between the event and your automatic story. It short-circuits the emotional reflex. It creates that precious, powerful space. And once you're in that space, you have the freedom to then ask the questions that change everything. Okay, that's what happened. Now, what's the story I'm telling myself about it? Is that story 100% true? Is it helpful? Or can I choose a different one? This simple practice, done consistently, is the key to going from being a puppet of your emotions to being the quiet master of your mind. But this leads to a final, crucial question for this section. If this practice is so simple and the benefits are so profound, why is it so incredibly hard? Why does every fiber of our modern being scream at us to react instantly, to skip the pause, to live in that collapsed state of anger and anxiety? It's because we are swimming against a very powerful, deliberate tide. The world around us, our entire modern society, is not designed for you to be calm and reflective. It is, in fact, exquisitely engineered to keep you from ever finding that pause. It actively profits from your reactivity. And in the next part, we are going to expose the invisible forces in our culture that are fighting to keep you triggered. We have just discovered the superpower of the pause, that sacred, quiet space between a trigger and a response, the space where our freedom truly lives. But if you've started to practice creating this pause, you have undoubtedly noticed something. It is incredibly difficult. It can feel like you're trying to swim upstream against a powerful current, and there's a very good reason for that. You are. It's not just your own internal programming you're fighting against. The truth is the entire world around you, the very architecture of our modern society, is exquisitely designed to do one thing: to close that gap, to steal your pause. Why? Because your reactivity is profitable. Your attention, your outrage, your anxiety, and your insecurity are some of the most valuable commodities of the 21st century. And there are trillion-dollar industries dedicated to mining these resources from your mind every single second of the day. Let's break down the three main pillars of what I call the outrage economy. First, there's social media. We need to be brutally honest with ourselves about what these platforms are. They are not benign tools for connection. Their algorithms have one single, solitary goal: to maximize the amount of time your eyeballs are glued to their screen. And their data has shown them, unequivocally, what keeps us staring. It's not calm, it's not clarity, it's not peace, it's conflict, outrage, and comparison. The algorithm learns precisely what triggers you, what political opinions make your blood boil, what kind of curated vacation photos make you feel envious, what content makes you feel inadequate or behind in life. And then, with terrifying efficiency, it feeds you a custom-designed diet of exactly that, ensuring you stay hooked, scrolling, and emotionally engaged. The second pillar is the modern news media. The 24-hour news cycle is not a public service designed to make you a well-informed citizen. It is an entertainment business, and its business model is built on fear and urgency. Calm, measured, nuanced reporting doesn't sell. It doesn't generate clicks or keep viewers through commercial breaks. But fear does, anger does, division does. A constant state of low-grade panic keeps you tuning in, desperate to find out what you should be afraid of next. A calm, centered, emotionally stable person is a terrible customer for the outrage industry. And the third, perhaps most insidious pillar, is the marketing and advertising industry. These industries have mastered a form of psychological warfare. They don't just sell you a product. As the video this analysis is based on states, entire industries exist to sell you a problem first, then offer you the solution. They manufacture insecurity and then sell you the cure. Think about it. They don't sell you a luxury watch. They sell you the fear of being seen as ordinary and insignificant. They don't sell you anti-aging cream. They sell you the terror of becoming invisible and irrelevant. They don't sell you a diet plan. They sell you self-hatred and the promise of acceptance. Their core message, whispered in 1,000 different ways, is always the same: you are not enough as you are. Now, the most common and dangerous mistake we make is to believe that we are immune to all of this. We tell ourselves that we're just passively participating. We think we're using social media, but in reality, our emotional reactions are being used to target us with ads. We think we're watching the news to stay informed, but our anxiety is being packaged and sold to advertisers. From the moment we are old enough to understand words, we are being programmed. We are taught that our value is external, that it depends on the approval, the applause, and the opinions of others. We are conditioned to care deeply about what other people think. This conditioning makes us incredibly easy to manipulate. When someone or something knows how to trigger you, they have you on a leash. Imagine you have a giant control panel strapped to your chest with buttons labeled insecurity, anger, guilt, and fear. The systems of our society have learned to play this panel like a virtuoso pianist. They tap the insecurity button with an ad, and you reach for your wallet. They tap the outrage button with a headline, and you give them your attention. The more easily you're triggered, the more predictable, and therefore the more profitable, you become. So what is the lesson here? The lesson is that in a world that is addicted to chaos, choosing calm is a radical act of rebellion. Protecting your inner peace is not a soft, passive activity. It is an active, defiant declaration of your mental sovereignty. It's you saying, my mind is not a resource to be mined. My peace is not for sale. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." The lesson is to finally believe him and to stop letting the noise of the world dictate your inner reality. This leads to our fourth mission. To consciously unplug the control panel. This requires deliberate action. It's time to put yourself on an information diet. Here are 3 practical steps you can take, starting today. First, curate your feeds mercilessly. Go through your social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, and unfollow every single account that consistently makes you feel angry, anxious, jealous, or inadequate. Be ruthless. Your mental space is sacred ground. You are the gatekeeper. Do not let poison in just because you feel obligated to, or because you've been following it for years. Fill your feed with things that teach you, inspire you, or make you laugh. Second, schedule your news intake. Stop marinating in the 24/7 news cycle. The constant background radiation of outrage and fear is doing nothing for you. Choose a specific, limited time to get informed. Maybe it's 15 minutes in the morning while you drink your coffee from a reliable, relatively neutral source. Then, turn it off. For the rest of the day, live your actual life in the real world, not the one being curated to scare you. Third, expose the advertiser's trick. From now on, when you see an advertisement, I want you to mentally reframe it. Don't just see the product, see the insecurity it's trying to activate within you. See a perfume ad and think, this is trying to sell me the fear of being undesirable. See a car ad and think, this is trying to sell me the fear of being unimpressive. By simply naming the underlying emotional manipulation, you rob it of its power. You see the trick, and you are no longer a willing participant in the illusion. Taking these steps is a powerful act of defiance, but it can feel like you're trying to build a sandcastle while the tide is relentlessly coming in. Society will keep throwing its triggers at you. It will keep trying to push your buttons. That's why a good defense is not enough. You can't just block the triggers. You have to build a fortress inside your own mind that is so strong, so well constructed, that the triggers simply bounce off it, powerless. It's time to stop playing defense and start building your inner citadel. And to do that, you need the right tools. In the next part, we're going to open up the Stoics toolbox and give you a set of simple, powerful daily exercises to forge an unshakable mind. All right, we've done the deep work of understanding the problem. Now let's get practical. I'm not going to overwhelm you with 10 different techniques. I'm going to give you just two simple, powerful tools that, if you actually practice them, will fundamentally change your daily experience of life. Think of these as the foundation of your inner fortress. Tool number 1, the circle of control. This is the absolute cornerstone of a strong and peaceful mind. I want you to imagine your life is a dartboard. In the very center, there's a tiny bullseye. That bullseye represents the very few things you have direct, absolute control over. Your thoughts, your judgments, and your actions in this present moment. Everything else, the entire rest of the dartboard, is outside your control. This includes what other people think, whether they approve of you, the traffic, the weather, and even the ultimate outcome of your best efforts. The Stoic rule is simple. Aim all of your energy, focus, and concern at the bullseye. Waste zero emotional energy on the rest of the board. For example, you have a big presentation at work. What's in your bullseye? Your preparation, your practice, and the effort you put into your slides. What's outside? Whether your boss is in a bad mood, whether the Wi-Fi works, or whether your colleagues like it. The common mistake is to spend all our time worrying about the things we can't control, the audience's reaction, instead of mastering the things we can, our preparation. When you focus only on your circle, you replace anxiety with action. Tool number 2, the 2-question challenge. This is your emergency tool for the moment a trigger hits. When you feel that flash of anger, anxiety, or insecurity, you don't need a complicated process. You just need to pause and ask yourself 2 simple questions. Question 1, what is the story I am telling myself right now? This first question forces you to see your reaction not as a fact, but as a narrative you are creating. You are not just angry, you are telling yourself a story that makes you angry. For example, your friend replies to your long text with K. The story you might tell yourself is, they are mad at me, I don't matter to them. Question 2, is that story 100% true and is it helpful? This second question challenges the narrative. Is it 100% guaranteed true that your friend is mad? Or could they be busy, driving, or in a meeting? No, it's not 100% true. And is the story helpful? Does believing they're mad at you make your day better or worse? Of course it makes it worse. This simple 2-question process exposes the negative story as an unhelpful and unproven assumption, robbing it of its power. Now here's the most important part. The biggest mistake you can make is to just understand these tools intellectually. Knowing how a hammer works doesn't build a house. You have to pick it up and use it. This isn't homework, this is mental strength training. You wouldn't go to the gym once and expect to be fit. Your mind is no different. You will forget to use these tools. You will get swept away by emotions sometimes. That's not failure, that's just part of the practice. These tools are how you build your fortress. But what's it like to live inside it? In our final part, we'll explore the ultimate freedom this practice unlocks and what it means to truly have an unconquerable soul. So we have our toolkit. We're learning to focus on our circle of control and to question our negative stories. But what is the endgame? What is the destination of all this mental training? The answer is simple, it's freedom. Imagine your emotional energy is $100 you get to spend each day. Right now, you might be giving $5 to the driver who cut you off, $10 to a worry about the future, and $20 to an annoying email. By the end of the day, you're broke. Stoicism isn't about stop spending your energy, it's about becoming a wise investor. You stop giving it away to meaningless things so you can invest it all in what truly matters. Your family, your work, your health, and your purpose. This isn't about becoming cold, it's about caring correctly. The change won't be a lightning bolt, it will be quiet. One day you'll realize that a comment that used to hurt you for hours now just rolls past you. The constant battle in your mind begins to quiet down. Before, you were a leaf in the wind, pushed around by every external event. Now you become the tree. The wind still blows, the storms still come, but you are rooted, strong, and centered. It's a quiet strength, not a loud victory, and this is the final and most important lesson. There is no finish line. This is not a course you complete, it's a practice you live with. There will be days you forget everything we've talked about. There will be days you react in the old way. That is perfectly normal. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is the commitment to the practice. The victory is not in never falling. It's in getting up after every fall with a little more awareness than before. So we've completed our journey. We've seen how our reactions create our reality, how our past writes our scripts, and how society profits from our chaos. We've learned to find our circle of control and to question our stories. Now, I'll end with this question, and I'd love to see your answer in the comments. What is the one thing you will do this week to practice this quiet strength? If this video was helpful to you, a like is always appreciated as it helps others find it. And if you want to continue on this path, make sure you subscribe. Remember, true power isn't controlling the world. It's making sure the world can't control you. Stay strong and keep practicing.